Hi, everybody. When I corrected the calculator assignment, I left a little note in for, I believe, most of you saying to be on the lookout for a more dynamic approach to it. And this is fine and dandy, but it's work intensive. We pass numbers through arguments into the function. So this is great, and we did something successfully, and I think everybody understood every line of code. We learned that the text field had a value attribute. We learned that eval will evaluate expressions. We learned and had some practice with the double equal. So, entry level fundamental stuff. But when we approach this, we should see anytime we do something repetitiously, it's time to get dynamic and think of another approach. If this were, let's say, a scientific keyboard, that would be a real undertaking to apply an event to every single button on there. So the idea would be to group the buttons and add an event listener, something that listens for anything that happens to that button. In this case, they're a table data cell. And then find a way to analyze the target, what was clicked. So in JavaScript, we have what's called the event object. And this is your new code. So I'm just going to copy this and replace the old one with it. And as you can see, I have no function calls, no arguments at all. But what I do have is a variable called keys that equals a query selector all of all the table data cells in this page. And then I have a for loop. So I'm saying for each numbers as of keys, being basically breaking apart the keys object, which has a lot, it's a collection. And I can do a for of loop with that. So what I've done is done a for let numbers of keys. So numbers would now be each individual key. And then we're going to add an event listener and say when that element numbers is clicked for each of them, let's calculate. Calculate meaning that's the function right here. Okay, so the cool thing about this is if I do console.log on EVT, that is an automatic event that did not get passed here, but is part of the JavaScript language. So if I do this, and it can be called it can be called anything, but it is the event. So we logged it. Let's take a look at it. So I'm going to open up Calc, and I'm going to go to my console, like so. And if I click 2, you see a pointer event. And inside this very cool event model has a bunch of things that relate to what was clicked. But what we're looking for in particular is target table data cell, because that was what was clicked, right? So inside here, we'll see a lot of properties. Boy, there's a ton. And if we go to the inner HTML or inner text, either one, you'll see the numeral 2. If I were to do it to another element, there would be another event object. There's 3. There's the second one right here. And if I go to event target, it should say 3. So there's the first one I looked at. Let's look at the second one here. And target TD, inner HTML. A lot to scroll through, isn't it? And you see 3. So that is how we can do that value. Now that makes the rest of it pretty darn simple, because if I know that event.target.innerHTML or inner text is that number, I can put it in the same variable that was formerly getting passed as an argument. And now I can just simply evaluate it. And what we have here is a lot of saved time and effort and full functionality. So that is the approach. So if you see yourself doing something repetitiously, try to think of another solution. Now, adding an event to each key it's fine in certain instances if you're just doing it once. In fact, it allows you to add multiple events. But the add event listener would mean that the listener only goes to one event, which is usually the case. So there are use cases for both, applying an event listener directly to the object or setting it aside in the code. Again, if you have multiple events that you need to apply to one element, you would go with applying, an on-click, an on-hover, directly to the element. So when you see that, don't think it's antiquated, don't think it's obsolete. There's a reason for that. when people put on clicks directly on the button. But if you're doing something repetitiously, sometimes the event listener with a query select all will get all those elements that you need and dynamically reduce your workload.